our channel. I'm Caroline Zook, this is my husband Jason Zook, and we have a business called Wandering Aimfully, which is an unboring coaching program for intentional online business owners.
We are traveling full-time this year in Europe, and we're gonna talk to you about the tiniest little village you ever did see in the south of France.
Before we get to the tiny village, we have to catch you up on some rapid fire travel updates and all that it took to get to this tiny village.
Where we last left you was in Far, Croatia. We took a ferry from Far back to Split. We took a flight from Split over to Paris. We stayed one night in a Paris hotel. Then we took the train over to Colmar, where we stayed a week in Colmar. We would have made a video for you there, but boy oh boy, we pooped. We needed to recharge our batteries. Plus, Colmar was just a little too touristy for our taste, so we'll pop a few photos in for you to see that. Then we took the train back to Paris and we parted ways so Carol could meet up with her two girlfriends she's known since she was 3 years old for a girls trip. They ate at some amazing restaurants, visited an organic market, picnicked in the park, and just had fun wandering the streets of the city. I spent 3 days by myself, ordering Uber Eats and doing a little bit of sightseeing. After a long weekend in Paris, we met back up, took the train from Paris to Avignon, and spent another 4 days exploring this Provence city. Then Carol said goodbye to her childhood girlfriends. We met back up together, we rented a car, and we drove out to La Capelle et Mazmeline, the tiniest of little villages, about 45 minutes from Avignon. Woo! Yeah, it was a whirlwind of 3 weeks apart, together, trains, planes, ferries, all of it.
That's right, but now we're here, and in this video, we are gonna share with you what we did, where we stayed, and what we ate in this itty bitty tiniest little town in the south of France.
In the south of France.
So the first thing that we did was just drive to this gorgeous little village and take in the beautiful scenery in the south of France. I mean, it was springtime, everything was in bloom. These roads were, they were a little sketch.
They gave the Irish roads, if you've watched our 2 Irish vlogs, a run for their money.
They did.
Because we're used to those raisin roads, as we like to call them. It's like a grape and then turns into a raisin, which is very fitting for this region. But they were easy to navigate. I mean, everything was just so lovely that I think we were distracted by the fact that you were passing on these tiny roads, little cars. Did you have driving anxiety?
You're passing vineyards, you're passing hills, you're passing mountains, fields of flowers in bloom. I mean, when you think of the south of France, this is the picturesque landscape that you imagine.
Along our drive from Avignon to this little part of France, there were so many little villages kind of dotted along. We drove through a couple, and we ended up staying in one, which we're gonna talk about more of the actual home that we stayed in. But they were so small and amazing. I mean, I think the one we stayed in had 15 homes.
Yeah, my favorite thing is that they call the little village we stayed in La Capelle, but it's so small that they just basically combine it with the next town over, so they name it La Capelle et Mazmeline, because Mazmeline is the village over.
Did we just become best friends? Yup! Do you want to go do karate in the garage? Yup!
One of my favorite things was this castle, not castle. I think it was a home that someone actually lived in because I couldn't find it on the map.
We tried to look it up,
but
not
it was
quite sure.
Gorgeous. We got some views of it on something we'll talk about in a minute, but it was just this really big structure amongst all these small village towns and homes and things. It was amazing.
Yeah, we would go on daily walks and you would just wander down these streets. Like one day we wandered down a street and just found like an old beautiful windmill.
Yeah.
We just saw a sign that said Moulin à Vent and I was like, I think that's windmill.
You did a good job. I thought it was another, it was Moulin Rouge, Mulan, and then this was the trilogy, so this was the third one.
Definitely.
It wasn't that, it was just a windmill.
No, just a windmill.
One of our absolute favorite things was this little bouldering adventure, this hike that we went on that we did not know existed when we booked this place. But our Airbnb host sent me a message through WhatsApp and said, hey, have you gone up to the trail and started hiking? We said, what? What trail? What hiking? And you walk up 20 feet from our front door and there are all these trails, these giant boulders, and we found ourselves on this 2-hour breathtaking hike, climbing over boulders. Did not expect this at all.
Could not believe it. Tons of trails. We just kept following, no plan, no
these
idea where we were going.
Markers we would follow.
Followed the markers and found ourselves in these beautiful lookout points. I felt like such a little kid, climbing up on stuff.
Oh, you were like a cat.
I know.
You were just climbing up things.
This is the only circumstance where I'm adventurous or outdoorsy. In all other circumstances, I'd like to be inside.
Yeah, we have a couple clips of us on these really big boulders overlooking the entire village and the entire area, and it looks like it's a little bit higher and more treacherous than it is. It wasn't that dangerous to climb up these things.
No, it was super dangerous, and we're super brave. Oh, it's just we're so brave.
We're basically free soloing the south of France.
It's free soloing.
It feels like the same thing.
It is.
It's really the same.
Now, as cute as the tiny little village is, it is very, very, very small. So after you do the bouldering and the wandering around, we did want to spend at least one day going into a nearby bigger town, and by bigger town, I mean still a very tiny town.
Yeah.
This city is called Uzès, and that's kind of like the big city next to Capelle, and we had an incredible time spending the day in Uzès as well.
Now, we kind of ended up going to the city for two reasons. Number one, because we wanted to see it and it looked beautiful, but number two, because somebody had a flare-up of shingles.
That's right. Shingles. Cute.
And we like to keep it honest about our travels here.
Yeah.
So it's not all perfect. And this was you have to deal with the medical system and trying to get a prescription drug in a foreign country where you don't speak the language. How do you make appointments? Do you have to deal with insurance? All that stuff. I think we'll go into more detail about this in a future video where we do a Q&A talking about what this is like. But to save you all of those details, we figured
it out. This was a big fear of mine, but it ended up being fine. We did get an appointment the same day with the doctor. I got my medication. Perfect. However, we had to wait until the last appointment of the day, which gave us a great opportunity to basically kill time in Uzès for an entire day.
So there's basically like this central area, and then there's a road that goes around. It's a one-way road, and we ended up just walking and stumbling around all these streets. We looked at the map a little while, and then we would just look up, and then we would see all these amazing doors.
That was my favorite thing, is
So
you
many
kept taking
amazing
photos
doors.
of all these doors. You were like, look at this door, look at this door.
I've never been the person to take photos of doors,
But
but
you are.
in this city I had to. But yeah, it was just really fun, and there were really modern parts as well, where you could tell they'd completely updated and renovated, but then right next to it there was something that has been there for hundreds of years. You would just come around a turn and you couldn't see anything, and then all of a sudden, boom, there's a tower.
Yeah.
And it was just really fun to walk around the city and find all of these, and I think there's probably about 100 clips on my phone of all of these towers, and they end up looking exactly the same, but I couldn't photograph or
They're just
video
cool.
enough of it because they were just so fun.
Speaking of the towers, our favorite thing to do in Uzès is the medieval garden. So it's right at the center of the city, and it's this gorgeous, stunning garden space. You do have to pay a small fee.
Yeah, it was €7 each.
It's like a public works thing,
Yeah.
to go into this beautiful garden where they've planted all of these amazing plants and flowers. I think through a historical context, I think it's like all the different plants that they brought through the medieval times. And then you also have like the King's Tower and another tower that you can actually go up in and see these incredible views of the city. We would show you the clip that we got from the top of the tower.
Right.
However, we did not make it to the top of the tower. Let me tell you why. We decided to go up the stairs. It's this very narrow staircase. It's
Didn't
winding.
even fit my shoulders standing forward. I had to turn sideways.
Right. So after I go around this thing, I'm going up first. After I go around about 7 times maybe, I start panicking.
Yeah.
I'm panicking.
If you look up, you can't see where it ends. If you look down, you can't see where you came from.
And you're
just in a spiral staircase that's enclosed.
And I'm thinking, is it 20 steps and we're at the top, or is it 100 steps in the top? I have no idea. Finally, I was like, I pushed through a little bit, and then finally I was like, Jason, we gotta go back down.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna apologize for it, because when I found out at the bottom how many steps there were, we were not even a quarter of the way up, and I would have definitely panicked.
But I did give you a lot of credit. I mean, this is something we didn't know. You are a person who deals with anxiety. You are a person who deals with claustrophobia. So, you tried it. And we actually did have a second tower that we went up, because part of the medieval gardens was, you could be outside and see all the plants, but you could just go into these little art
They had art installations,
basically. Yeah, it was really fun. And one of them was some graffiti up a tower, which we knew how many steps. It was like 33. So we managed that one. It was a little bit wider so we could fit. But yeah, the whole garden experience was lovely. Honestly, I think one of my favorite parts, besides the beauty, was we paid to get in, and the lovely French older woman who was behind the thing gave us the whole orientation in French. And then I think looked at us and realized, oh, they don't speak French. And she goes, parlez-vous français? And we go, no. And she goes, do you speak English? And we go, yes. And she goes, I do too. And then tells us the whole thing again. And that was just kind of like a metaphor for how friendly we found French people across this whole trip, which we'll talk more about. But yeah, this was, if you end up in Uzès for some reason, maybe you get shingles and you have to find a doctor, definitely check out the medieval gardens. It is fantastic.
Beautiful.
Where we stayed in the south of France. Okay, at this point you might be wondering, how the heck did you find this area of the south of France?
How did you, Jason?
Well, thank you, that's a great question. We were searching on Airbnb just for unique stays, especially coming after our 3 weeks of whirlwind travel. We wanted something more relaxing and something slower paced, and we found what we like to call the Tateau.
The Tateau.
And it wasn't called this in the Airbnb listing, it was called whatever a normal house would be called, but it was basically a tiny French chateau, which we
it had
called
a
the
chateau feeling.
It really
on the
did, as you'll
inside.
see in some of the footage as we start to talk about it. So that's how we found this area.
Everything about the photos in this Airbnb listing, we were obsessed with.
It
We were
lived up to the hype.
It is French, so French. It
Yeah.
is charming. It is so, there's a little tiny pool. There's this, there's that. And we were so excited. It looked incredibly magical. And let me just tell you, it looked magical, but it didn't feel magical being there. I mean, okay, it
was
did
magical
for
for
a
the
second.
first 24 hours.
Yes.
It was magical.
So we just want to be transparent and share with you, this is definitely one of those Instagram versus reality moments where the photos, incredible, the practicality and livability of the space for a week. Not incredible, not magical, but we're going to take you through all of the quirks that this Tateau has to offer.
So as you walk in the Tateau, you are met with the first floor. And the first floor is basically like the living/family room, and it's where the TV is, it's where the couches are. But it feels and looks like a cellar, and that's probably what it was.
It's kind of underground,
Yes.
is why.
It feels very damp in there. There was always a dehumidifier running for good reason. We didn't spend much time in this room because it just always felt so dark.
Would have made for a great wine cellar, less a TV room.
Yeah.
As you make your way upstairs from the cellar, you have basically the main living floor. And you're met with this very grand, but very dark dining room with a table for like 12 people that we didn't certainly need, but you know, it made an impact, which was great. Off of that, you also have the kitchen.
Yes, which is a very modern, updated kitchen with good appliances, plenty of room to cook. We basically cooked the entire week, as we'll talk about in the what we ate section, but it was very functional.
It was very functional. The kitchen to me is the epitome of looks like a magazine, but then day after day, you're like, the sink doesn't really drain. Nothing really gets clean. But I will say, huge plus, they had every pot and pan that you could imagine in this kitchen.
If you've heard us talk about this in other videos, sometimes we have to be egg pan bandits, as we like to call ourselves, where you get there and the egg pan is just crap, so you have to go buy a different pan. There were 30 pans. There were 50 pots. There were 167 tiny spoons. There was plenty of stuff in this stocked kitchen.
Now, off from the dining room is the room that I would rather forget existed. We're gonna call it the apothecary room. It's just this like little interesting shaped triangle room with just like bits and bobs from long ago.
There are tinctures, there are magnifying glasses, there are lots of sun-shaped mirrors, there are chairs that look like they're gonna combust that have been there for probably 1,300 years.
Now, if you're someone who loves like finding treasures and like historical objects and antique stores, you're gonna love it. I definitely felt like this room was haunted. I'm just gonna say it. It felt haunted.
We didn't go in this room at all.
We left the spirits in there to their own devices.
Last part of the main floor is the bedroom and bathroom. The bathroom is fairly modern for considering the rest of the house, especially the
nothing bad to say about that
apothecary room. When compared to that, extremely modern. Then you move into the bedroom, and this bedroom had I call them piano chairs. I don't know that they were actually that, but it was a very well-appointed bedroom. Plenty of armoires in this house. By the way, we counted. There were 6.
And then leaving that main floor, you go up these stairs and you hit what we're calling basically
upstairs
part one. Let's call it that. You have another bedroom and another bathroom, and this was a lovely bedroom. It didn't get that much light.
It really didn't. It also had combustible chairs.
It did have
It had a couple tiny stools that I kicked multiple times. And I had to move in the corner and put them in timeout.
But it did have one of our favorite features of the entire Tateau.
I thought it was just a feature, like a wood feature on the bed.
Yeah, like a table.
Then we found out it slides back and forth.
On like a track on the actual bed frame. And it was really fun because we could both go in there, set up our little laptop. We'd watch movies on like this little tray table. I don't know. We liked it.
Yeah, it was fun. Off of that is a bathroom, which kind of had like a darker, moodier feel. The vanity in the bathroom was an old carpenter's table. It had a torture crank on the end, so if anybody's acting up, you take them in here. But this definitely had like a lot of charm in this area of the house. Not a lot of natural light, but it was beautiful and it was fun to be in this room.
I will say all of the antique pieces and like I did love that piece of this. It had all of that charm. It's just those pieces in functional daily living.
Oh, hello. This is Editor Jason in the future. There was an audio issue 3 times that happened for some reason in the talking head of this video. No idea, hasn't happened before, don't know what happened, but hopefully we'll figure it out moving forward. But if you see me pop in again, this is why. So I'm just gonna talk over what happened and then we'll get right back into it. Don't worry, it's not too long of an issue. But Carol was talking about the Tateau bonking into us. There were all kinds of like metal things and furniture and stuff that was just like biting in our ankles, and we ended up with a lot more bruises than we thought staying in an Airbnb. But then I got us back to the tour, and I was just talking about upstairs part 1, going up 4 steps from there to upstairs part 2, which is the extremely long rectangular primary bedroom. It had a sitting area, it had a day bed, and then it had obviously the bed where we slept. So I'm gonna let past me continue the tour because that's all I needed to catch you up on with this first audio glitch. Then there's a gigantic open shower in the middle of the room, which I did try, and it did work well, although it felt so weird to just open the curtains and I'm in the entire bedroom. And then this giant bed setup with some other furniture around. This whole space, if you watched our Split Croatia video, it felt as big as the entire Laganini loft that we rented.
Yeah.
So you can check that video out. I'll link it up so you can relive that or see it if you haven't seen it yet. What a cool room, though.
Such a cool room. The hard part for me was, from a light and just feeling perspective, it was my favorite room in the house to be in, but two things kept me out of that room a lot while we were there. Number one, there was this interesting, I think it was because the sun heats up the room during the day, this interesting smell that would develop.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna say it smelled like dead people.
Not like hundreds of years of dead people.
But it felt like the skin sheddings of people in the dust.
And the place wasn't dirty. Like
it was not
it
dirty.
Didn't feel like it.
Just
It just
felt like
had a smell.
Everything,
yeah.
the textures just absorbed all of that. Anyway, it was that plus the fact that as beautiful as that bed looks, the headboard, which is fantastic, probably a salvage piece of like a textile factory or something. Or the first night we're sleeping in it and just creaking the entire night.
Every time you move, it just like the whole headboard felt like it was going to come down. It was very sturdy. I checked. But yeah, I actually really love the design of the bed. Like I love the wood frame and everything. And the whole layout of the room, it's beautiful. Like, you look at it and it's wonderful. And that kind of sums up the whole house itself is it's beautiful, but it's not that livable.
Yeah. But I will say the saving grace of the Tateau is all of the outdoor space because it's like a secret garden out there. You have multi-leveled, terraced little outdoor spaces. There was a beautiful outdoor dining space that we spent most every day out there eating lunch. And then the pièce de résistance.
Nice. That's French. Great job.
Was this tiny pool that was absolutely stunning. A little chilly because of the time of year, so we couldn't go fully in. But we dipped our feet in, and just it was so lovely every day to be able to sit out there and just look at the flowers, have nature surrounding you. That definitely made the stay beautiful.
We just want to give you the honest and real of when you see this place and you dream about going to this place and then you get there and then you're there for more than 24 to 48 hours, it's very hard to live in.
Yeah, we're not complaining. Like, we're so glad that we got the experience, but it would be very easy for us to sit here and show you photos and show you video clips and just say that it was...
There was no dead smell.
There was no dead smell, but we are going to be real with you all, and you have to balance the photos with the actual experience of being there, and so that's what we're trying to do in this video.
What we ate in the south of France, kind of.
Okay, so we're gonna cheat for just a second because this restaurant was not technically in the south of France. It wasn't near Uzès. It wasn't near La Capelle. It was in Colmar. But it was our favorite restaurant that we've eaten at thus far.
It really was, this entire trip.
And it was called L'Arpège.
This came as a recommendation from, you got your hair done.
I got my hair done in Colmar. And my hairdresser, I was asking recommendations, and he was like, you have to go to this restaurant. And it was very highly rated.
It's got a 4.9 on Google, which
and we just thought,
if you get that high and it had a ton of reviews, you usually know it's pretty good. So we showed up, we made a reservation, I called and made a reservation. We showed up, I mean, I think they had 10 total tables. And it was lovely. One of our favorite things that we found, especially in these French restaurants, was the chalkboard menus that they would bring you. And so they would bring you the chalkboard menu for the drinks. Then they would bring you the chalkboard menu for the food you would eat.
And so you're sitting in this like secret garden. You're in this like
another secret
this
garden.
Restaurant.
France is all secret gardens.
It's all secret gardens. You're in this like hidden place, and I don't know if he was like the manager of the restaurant, but anyway, we were the first people there. So he came and he was so patient with our French and with our, we tried.
I mean, he spoke so much better English than we spoke French.
Exactly.
As most people did.
And if you've watched any of these videos, you know we try to always lead with the local language, but sometimes we're limited. And people are just so patient with you. And when I tell you this food was so flavorful and so high quality and so delicious, every bite was just like perfectly thoughtful and just a combination of flavors I had never had before. I mean, it's like Michelin star quality 100%. Food at this restaurant.
And we do know that because one of my bucket list goals for traveling this entire year was to eat at a Michelin star restaurant in every country that we go to, which I have amazingly been able to do so far, and I'm so grateful that we have saved up money to do that. This restaurant definitely, as we said, it's been our favorite restaurant the entire trip.
Even
and
above
it's not,
some of the
It's
Michelin
not
star
ranked as a
ones.
Michelin star, but it feels that quality of food. And there was this dessert.
Yeah.
There were 3 options, and I said, which one would you get? And he said, you have to get le chocolat. And so that was breathtaking, that dessert. I can still remember almost every bite of it.
And
That's how
see,
good it
I
was.
remember the citron noir, because
Yes.
the black lime dessert, it was like unbelievable. So that was definitely, we have to include it.
Do you know how
we
good
didn't
it
do a
was?
video for Colmar, so.
You know how good it was?
How good was it?
We came back
That's
the
right.
next day for
We
lunch
went-
with all of our luggage before we were leaving to eat it one more time. Again, it was that good.
We did that.
Hello again. This is audio glitch number 2. Now, we were just talking about how we were cheating and talking about food places, restaurants, specifically is what those things are called, that we were eating at that weren't in the tiny village of La Capelle and Masmeline because there were no restaurants there. But there was a big selling point to this Airbnb, actually 2 big selling points, and that's kind of what we talked about in this section, and I'm gonna let past version of me go ahead and take it away and talk to you about those 2 fun selling points. Bread truck delivers every morning, honks his horn, and delivers bread, and then there's a pizza truck that comes every Tuesday. So let's talk about the bread truck first.
Yes.
I, like a child, waited, not knowing what time the bread truck would come.
Like the ice cream man, you thought?
Exactly. I heard no sounds, no bread songs. I looked out the window, I saw no trucks, and a couple days went by and I started to get really sad.
Yeah.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Then finally, on the 4th day, I spotted this little van.
Well, I think on
basically.
the 4th day, you just were like parked in front of the window and you're
I
like,
was
I'm not gonna
leaving.
miss it.
I like had my laptop, I was doing work, and I'm like looking out the window doing work. And I saw this little van, it wasn't a truck, and I saw this man get out with a bag of baguettes. I was like, that is the bread man. I ran downstairs, he didn't speak any English, I don't speak very good French at all. And through communication, he basically said he would come back the next day and I could buy some things from him, because I think he basically just made whatever anybody asked for the day before. So the next day, child again, laptop by the window, I saw him come, I run downstairs, Caroline grabs the camera, and we get to show you my amazing getting the bread from the bread truck. Just a
You're so happy.
bucket list item again checked off. I didn't even know I wanted this until I was told that I would get it.
Now, when it comes to the pizza truck, this was another thing where we were like, I don't know, is it gonna show up? Is it not? Because the one day where the pizza truck was supposed to show up, it was the only day while we were there that it rained.
And it didn't just sprinkle, it
No,
wasn't a spring shower.
this was a thunderstorm.
storm. Yeah.
And actually, we got caught in the rain when we were out walking, and we were
Yeah.
like, I had to run home. And then I asked Jason, I said, do you think the pizza truck man's gonna come? And you felt the optimism. You were like, yes, he is.
Yeah, this was actually 2 days into me not getting the bread
You were like,
truck.
I don't know
and I
this
was
chef,
like,
but he's gonna come rain or shine. And I was like, okay. We leave the house. Actually out loud, not even in my head, I said, there's a 30% chance that this pizza truck is gonna be there. I was
Yeah.
very not hopeful. Lo and behold, Shea Roberto,
waiting for us in
rain
the
or
parking lot.
shine, is in the parking lot.
He was
You were
there.
so excited. I was so excited.
Yep.
Again, no English whatsoever, but thankfully we just pointed at some menu items.
Pretty easy to
and-
order pizza too. But yeah, he just made these pizzas right in his truck, had an oven right in there.
Yeah.
We waited about 10 minutes.
Wait, my favorite part is the pizzas are done. He's giving them to us
Oh,
from
yeah.
the truck. And he wraps up some arugula, some fresh arugula in like foil. And he doesn't speak English, so he just goes, this. He's like pointing, he's like, this, after, because. And Jason was like, oh, it'll get
Yeah, it'll
wilty,
get wilty.
so we'll add
Yeah,
it after.
figured it out.
And so it was this beautiful, like, beyond language barrier moment. And was the pizza the best thing we've ever tasted?
Listen, again, we're just being honest with you.
No.
This pizza is not, you're not gonna write a review on
No.
how great this pizza is. However, it was pizza from a truck in a village in a tiny little speck on the map in France. A rainstorm opened up so that we could go
Yes.
get this. It made it
And
magical. and
for that
memorable.
reason, it tasted amazing.
Okay, the last kind of food thing we want to talk about is one restaurant that we ate at in Uzès when we had that whole day, and that is Petit Jardin. As we walk through, you end up in this tiny secret garden, as we mentioned.
The
there's
land of secret gardens.
so many of these, and it was a fantastic lunch.
Absolutely delicious. Once again, we got the chalkboard. We got a little language moment of trying to pick out things on the menu, and it was just perfectly lovely. I mean, was it a larpège?
It was nothing's gonna be a
No,
larpège.
but that's okay.
Yeah.
I do not know how much I would enjoy French food. I mean, I know the French are known for their food,
Yeah.
but
It lives up to the hype.
It lives up to the hype.
And I will say the other thing we realized, the friendliness of the French people, we only experience good things. And I think the thing we really learned, especially in multiple countries, is just Hi again. This is the last one, I promise. This is actually a pretty short one. I was just saying here that we really tried our best to start with someone else's language first. So in France, we would try and order the salmon by saying salmon and not, can I have the salmon? You know, like that, just trying to be a little bit better. And that's pretty much it. So I'll let Caroline resume, and then that's the last audio glitch with video. Thank you for bearing with us. You're the best.
Yeah, and not trying to assert your culture onto someone, but really trying to have an open mind. And I think there's just a willingness that people can sense about your demeanor, and they are so much more patient, they are kind, they are helpful. And I just have to say, France in general, for all of the travel, you know, wild, rapid fire, week here, week there, which was hard on us, I am so glad that we spent those 3 weeks in France because I absolutely love the country. All right, that is what we did, where we stayed, and what we ate in La Capelle at Moulins, France.
Nicely
I don't
done.
think that's
I'm
very
congratulating you, but I'm not French, so sorry to
you have
French
to go
speakers.
with confidence.
Yeah.
I absolutely adored this town. I think as far as size of towns go, it was a little too small for where we'd live long term, but
It's
it was
so charming.
It was so fun to try on kind of the rural village lifestyle for a week. So we enjoyed it so much.
Now, the important thing that you're all waiting for if you've watched this far is our rating scale.
That's
This
right.
is the Zook rating scale. We've just completely made this up. This is totally arbitrary. It is not meant to be an
Has nothing to
information
do
about
with the
anybody's,
deservingness
the
of
way
the
that the city is
cities.
set up,
It's
or
just
anybody
for
lives
us,
there.
how
It's
we
just
like
for the
it.
thing. This is your.
That's our disclaimer.
There you go. In Portugal,
Yes.
we had the
Peacock scale.
In Kinsale, we had the
Seal
scale.
scale.
In
Ballybunion.
we had the seashell scale.
Correct.
In Split, we had the cat scale.
Of course.
In Far, we had the sailboat scale.
Yes.
And now here in the south of France, we are doing the croissant scale. So, Caroline, how many croissants do you give the south of France?
Ugh.
Because you got to think of the whole picture too. It's not just where we stayed.
Right.
It's all of it.
I'm gonna have to give it 9.5 croissants.
First of all, you can't eat half of a croissant. I think I should have made
Sure you
that
can.
clear.
Well-
No one has ever left half of a croissant. Have you ever seen half of a croissant still
I'll
on the
do
plate?
what I want.
Not with a croissant. You won't. You'll eat the whole thing. 9 or 10. What are you giving it?
I cannot give a 10. You know this about me. I
Okay.
cannot.
Then it's a 9.
No, stop making up rules. It's 9.5 croissants.
Glad you got to listen to us argue about if you can eat half of a croissant or not. I would never leave half of a croissant, just so everybody
You
knows.
can't make up arbitrary rules.
I'm going to give it 8.5 on my croissant scale.
So it's a 9.5 for me because the food,
Yeah.
the stunning landscapes, the people, I loved the language.
Yeah.
Just everything oozes charm about it.
I think it's just a little too rural for me. Like, there was no coffee shop. There was, you know, it's just like there's so
You said
few
take
of those
the whole
things.
into it, the South
I
of
know,
France.
but I'm just saying that's why I get
But,
like,
like,
it's a
in
little
Uzès,
bit
there's a
less of
coffee
a
shop.
croissant. It's a little bit less of a croissant.
I mean, I
for me.
respect your rating. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You said take it all into it.
So anyway, the average ends up being 9
9
croissants,
croissants.
which you would never leave half of a croissant, so it worked out perfectly.
you left half a croissant.
I know, you didn't even catch that.
You left half
9
a croissant.
croissants. Thanks, South of France. And now your sneak peek of our next destination.
Where are we headed?
Leave a comment below with where you think we are headed next based on these very nondescript
Ambiguous
clips that I'm leaving you. And we thank you so much for watching these videos. Hope you enjoyed this and our hilarious, random, tiny adventures in the Tateau and all the things I stubbed my toe on while we were there.
Thanks for watching.